Alright, so here I am looking at my the front of the house here. You can see there's the driveway, and I'm sure that's really fascinating. I just figured I'd do I did this last year, narrated video, I didn't narrate, I put music. Anyway, here's some sunchokes. They're doing really good. Here's the neighbor's fence that shades everything for like half the year. So you can see what I was just looking at. These sage flowers are really pretty, right? Gorgeous. It's attracting those beneficials, as they say, the friendly insects. Planted some beans right here in that sort of ground there. These are like Kylon. It's like some sort of Asian or it's like Chinese broccoli, I guess, which is apparently a perennial. And the best ones I ever grew were last spring, and I didn't even know what I was growing, so I just like chopped them down. Later I learned that you can actually, I think you get 2 harvests a year, or maybe more, and I just pulled them out like a fool. And of course these ones didn't grow as well because they were in the cold frame that had no light. I'm rambling. Anyway, there's the beans, sunchokes, Kylon. So this is the cloche that I thought it was a good idea to put the tomatoes, because before I had them over here and they started getting shaded earlier, I was like pushing them back out of the shade, or into the light, and so I thought, I'll put them over here, which blocks the path. My roommate got mad at me, whatever, who cares, he never comes back here anyway. So, there's horseradish, which I planted from a root at the that I got at Fred Meyer's for around Passover, because I was thinking about horseradish. That was fun. That was when I visited Baltimore last year, actually. Here's the oregano plant, which I've chopped up and spread all over the yard because it was just getting enormous, and I thought, I covet this spot because it's like gets a lot of sun. It's further back from the fence, you know. Here's some peas with their like way too fancy fence that's just unnecessarily complicated for the amount of peas, but whatever. I had fun building it, I guess. Here's a lattice that my roommate put up, so I was taking advantage of that. He has this like, I don't know, climbing passion flower or something that he didn't really plant very well, and it's not, you can't even really see it. It's like it's kind of blocked out by the sage. I'd help him with it, but he didn't ask me. Anyway, alright, so the cloche fell over. See, I thought I had a brilliant idea with this thing. You can see the tomatoes in here are actually doing pretty good. That cold frame I built, I think, really helped. I mean, look at these things. Like, they're pretty fucking big for this time of year, right? Like, I'm pretty proud of these guys. This one's not great, but some of them I started from seed in March. Those are ones, that one I started from seed. It's not as big, but I think it's going to do great because it's more like hardened off. And then this one also is the Brandywine. I think they're really just, those ones I planted from seed, I think are really doing good. Although the store-bought ones that I potted up, thing is, I gave away like half of them, the store-bought ones, because and this just, I've got like naturalized kale in my yard now because of letting stuff. I mean, at the time I was like, this is taking up space, I should plant something here. But man, when all those kale seeds started sprouting this year, I was like, yeah, that was worth the wait, you know, worth the weight in gold. Anyway, so here's the cloche, and I thought it was pretty clever how I designed this mofo right here. This is like, okay, it's a stick, really long branch or whatever that's dried out and it's going to snap in half. But what I thought was clever is I just kind of improvised because I couldn't figure out how to get this thing to stay up. Tie one end here to the top, and then I wrapped like the plastic around the bottom and put rocks on it to weigh it down. So the idea is like this can sort of swing around a bit in the breeze, but because the bottom is anchored and you've got, here, I'm going to go around to the other side. See if you can follow these two thoughts at once. This is a kale plant that I planted like 2 years ago, almost 2 years, like a year and a half ago in the fall, that it perennialized. It's fucking awesome. Like last spring it just bolted, and then all of a sudden it started putting out these new shoots, and it's still alive. So I had all these other kale plants here that just, you know, like they were annual like normal, and some more stuff that I plant. That's my problem. I plant this stuff even though it probably is just stunted. I'm pretty sure it is. I mean, this has been here for like a month or 3 weeks. It's barely growing. And rosemary that's just sitting here. I need to transplant it out of the sun. I think it needs part shade. Alright, so you can see what I did here is, and here's like all these friggin', like, this is like my brassica seed, like, crazy madhouse over here that I'm gonna put when I get back from Baltimore, I'm gonna put the peppers in there. Hopefully this stuff will be pretty dried out by then, and we'll see. So anyway, you can see there's like this corner here. So like the stick goes up into the corner is the idea. And then you just, and then the idea is like just kind of wedge this bottom end. Probably can't see it. I'm trying to work, and here, maybe I'll just put the movie down for a second. And I mean, the fact that it keeps falling over means it's probably not a very good design, right? But, and you can see that it's starting to press up against this. I really need to fix this cloche. My plan is I'm gonna get everything done before I go to Baltimore. I'm gonna get this cloche fixed, and I'm gonna get the beans planted, I'm gonna get the squash planted, I'm gonna get everything mulched, and yeah, sure, right. I didn't even do anything today, except, lie down after Harborview. We got a nice sunset today. Look at that. So, there's my neighbor, World War II vet. I'll tell you about him. So yeah, it sort of works though, right? Like, I really think it's clever. Just kind of like didn't know how to do it. So you can see there's the weight on the stick at the bottom, and it's kind of wedged into like this mound of soil around the tomato plant. Which again, like, I just dug up the path recently to put those tomatoes in there, which again I think was smart because it will extend the season. But I end up putting all this work into these little projects, and then there's all this other shit I want to do. But anyway, so yeah, you can see. So there it is up in the corner, and I don't know if you can really. Anyway, you get the idea of it, right? So I think I can make it work if I'll probably reinforce it with another stick, maybe one of those metal poles you see there, and. Anyway, I think I can make this work and last for while I'm gone, but I need to actually, like, I just keep jankily doing it because it's May, like, nothing's really in super. All right, so talked about that way more than I need to. Let's move on down the line here. Here's all these. This is actually, I was really surprised. So I planted this fava really late as a cover crop, which didn't really grow. I planted it too late. Didn't really act as a cover crop to, like, protect the soil. So the soil got compacted and leached all the nutrients, which is, the fava is supposed to help prevent that. Oh, there's the neighbor's roadie. That's always, it shades, but I love it. So, it's at least it's something nice that's shading instead of this goddamn fence. Impromptu tool shed, outdoor tool shed. So these I had planted over here, like in all my beds to the left, you see, up against the house, which is the main kind of part of the garden. This is where I've been killing. This is on the other side of the path, right? To the right of the path here, or the south, where I've been trying to add. I want to put the beans in there. We'll see how the idea being they can grow up, and that way they'll get sun for later. Anyway, so these fava bean here were actually all over here, but I think I just got lucky. Like, around, I think in February or March, when they were starting to grow again, the soil was at the right moisture, I guess. They were small enough. I dug them out and just kind of piled them up right here. Like, I just dug them out in big chunks and just kind of piled them here and just, like, piled dirt around them, like, sod chunks and stuff. And they fucking grew. I mean, look at that. I wasn't really expecting them to, but there was compost there. That's right. There was compost there. So that was part of why it was a smart move. But, like, look at that. I think now I'm just, like, originally the idea was just to get the soil kind of inoculated and just have something growing there before I planted my summer crop of beans. But now I'm like, fuck it, like, they're blooming and everything, I'll just eat the fava beans and I'll plant my beans somewhere else. So, and you can see there's the really healthy ones are the ones that I just left here because I was like, those are healthy, I'm gonna leave them here. And those, you can see that fava's probably, oh wow, it's got beans on it. I didn't even notice that. Damn, that's crazy. That happens like overnight. Wow. So, I did find a bean the other day. I tasted it. It was okay. I should pick those. Alright, so, maybe I'll bring them in tomorrow, eh? So anyway, those are like really healthy, right? And like that brassica forest, that bed has just hella compost. It's really deep and grows well. This one I had to add new compost, but finally after added new compost to the stuff and after multiple failed sowings, finally I put in some starts and you can see that's doing really good. I've got my mulch down. I have my lettuce. That spinach, that's like the one spinach seed that took. I planted a hella spinach seeds. That's like the one that became an adult plant, but like it's seriously a fucking spinach plant. And these are turnips. This whole bed's finally doing well, like I said. Like, for all the here's the cold frame. See, it's a tinted window, so everything in there gets etiolated, and it's fucking pain in the ass. But whatever. Here's one of my kale starts. I've learned with the starts you buy from the store. I buy so many starts, and like a few of them work. But in the end, here's some of the few starts that for me that actually, and I'm still having trouble. I'm finally starting to get the hang, I think, of figuring out which starts are worth trying to plant and which aren't. But these, man, that's a story. They were etiolated in the frame before I rebuilt it and made it good. They had aphids on them because the aphids were crazy, like in March into April. Like the seeds like got off to a great germination, and then they just before they even really had true leaves started, or maybe just the start of their true leaves, they were like fucking sucking for a long time, and I thought these are toast, but I just kept them going for some reason, and it seemed like almost every spot had one plant that's was sort of okay. And I had there was a tray of 6 of these hybrid broccoli blend, and each of them, like I say, like maybe 4 or 5 or so of them out of the 6 had. So I potted these up. So this is interesting. I'm curious to talk to you about this. So this I potted up, right? From its small little cell, I potted it up into like a larger pot for like 3 weeks, and I babied it and gave it tons of moisture and like put it out of the direct sun for a while and under a tinted window in a different cold frame that I'll show you later. And yeah, I'm really fucking obsessed with this. This is ridiculous. My obsessive hobby here. These are radishes that I'm just gonna let go to seed and see if I can eat the pods or something, because they are not gonna have particularly good roots because of the way the soil was. It got all fucked up. And so those broccoli I think are actually going to grow. I mean, I didn't give it enough space really because I didn't really think it would grow, but that's such a healthy bed, right? That's part of my strategy now. I'm trying to do an intensive thing where like, why am I doing that? I guess because I just have so much trouble getting plants to the point where they really get established that I'm like, I don't know. It's for leaf cover partly, I think. And just because I grow so many, I feel like I have so much trouble raising from seed to a healthy adult plant. I just need to start like way more plants, right, than I actually have, like starting transplants and direct seeding so that I can fill in the holes with the transplants, because it's so undependable to get. And here's some. I think this was dumb. I'm not sure why I did it. I started these like they're from last year's. I just had like compost squash that started in June, like a seed just started out of the compost, and it just grew like crazy. But it was one of these what people call like zucchini or like zucorn, like zucchini acorn, like right, like a hybrid squash that just has like no. It's reverted to whatever the wild state is, and it's not. You can't really eat it. It's just all like gross inside. And although I was eating them as summer squash, and they weren't terrible. I mean, if you picked them at the right time, they were like kind of okay to eat as summer squash. But I saved a bunch thinking, oh, this is a winter squash. It's really not edible that way. Anyway, I planted those in a bunch of different spots, and this is one of the ones that actually, I don't even think these germinated that well. I mean, they're not even getting that big, and I think I'm going to tear those out. But I guess in some ways it was just kind of a test run to see if it would germinate, and if it did, I figured, well, at least I will have something growing. I can eat it as a crappy summer squash, whatever. I don't know why I did it, but I'm sure there was a reason. I usually have a reason even if I don't know what it is. So like, I just showed you those broccolis that were doing good, right? Well, this is that same tray of transplants I made, which I've been using garden soil with extra compost, just soil from my garden with lots of extra compost as my potting soil, just because I don't want to spend money on potting soil, but also it's just kind of a fun experiment to see if I can do it. It's a challenge to set out for myself. This is part of why I fail. I set out extra challenge for myself. But these have grown great for me. This is like the Romanesca broccoli. And it's a lot smaller than those other broccolis that I babied and potted up. It's from the same sowing of transplants. And I really can't decide if it's toast or if it's actually eventually going to like figure things out and just get huge. Like the Romanescas have grown great for me, so I have some hope for that one. This is like cauliflower. Again, even just a few days ago I thought that thing's not going to do anything. But see, now I can't tell. I think this one's toast because I think it's already bolted and these leaves are so small. I think it's just going to be crap. But the Guylon, I think, well, I'll save that because, you know, I can probably put it somewhere else for the summer, and then in the fall I can transplant it or whatever because it's a perennial, right? That's what I think with the perennials. Well, I'll save that, put it in a pot or put it somewhere, and next year it'll be big, you know? So anyway, put a squash here, transplant. That looks like it's kind of growing. I put these plastic things over my transplants. The squash don't transplant well, so I think this really helps to keep the direct sun off of it. Anyway, the cloche I think would just get it too humid right now and just kind of like melt. But so anyway, those broccolis that I potted up though. You probably can't really tell in the video, but like these things are healthy. And this one actually was the most healthy of that flat of 6 or whatever it was. And I just directly planted it into the ground here. And, you know, it's bigger, but it seems like it's had a harder time than those ones. I think the babying really helped them, which is interesting. I'm always learning about it. So, I mean, just look at that. Like, it's kind of crinkly and just like not, you know, it's like, yeah, it's good and it's healthy and it'll be something, but I have a feeling this motherfucker, when I come back from Baltimore, is going to be a beast, right? Like, it's just so dark green and just like, that's going to be good. All right, so here we've got, and this is a fun exercise for me just to kind of, you know, test myself, see how much of what I'm saying is bullshit and how much of it is like stuff I actually know. Always good to get those thoughts out. So these are these grape cuttings that this really cool permaculture friend of mine who I met down here in Burien gave me. You can see they've really leafed out, right? Like we cut those off maybe I think at the beginning of February. So like what's that, like almost 4 months ago, 3.5 months. And there was a point where they weren't rooting in the pots, and I just added more soil, added more moisture, put them off further out of the direct sun, put like a bag around them to keep the humidity in. Then it was March, was all gray and perfect weather, and came back in a month or 3 weeks and they were rooted, and put them out in the sun, and holy shit, I've got these grapes. So I'll show you my plan for those later. Kind of running out of light here, so I guess I'd better. Here's where I planted the beans, lots of work digging up, and this is where I did the grass killing thing. It's kind of hard to see, I showed you before, but this kale plant's finally coming along. This was like an etiolated. I kind of knew when I had all these etiolated transplants that were dying, and I spent all this time trying to see if I could revive them. In March, they were just bad weather. They just mostly died. But I had a feeling that if I just left the kale there to like struggle along. Sorry, we've got the plane. You probably can't hear me. I had a feeling that if I just left the kale to struggle along, eventually, you know, greener pastures would come and the weather would change. And sure enough, look at this. It's actually kind of growing, so good move on my part. I left this. This is like a weed. It's like a plantain, I guess. Someone told me you can use it for your skin or your hands or something. I'm really curious. I thought it was dandelion a while back when I saw small ones in like lawns that were full of dandelions. So I actually ate the leaves because I've been eating a lot of dandelion leaves. I actually kind of like them, but I think they said you grind up the root. Shoot. Okay, I'd better hurry up. We're really running out of light here. So this is like my spring garden, right, with all the cabbages, and it's like the one I bought all these starts, and the ones that really worked out were these cabbages. You can see they're just, some of them are screwed because I accidentally poured pee on. I've been using my pee to fertilize, if you can believe that. I poured it on these two back here and really fucked them up just after all the work. But here's this cauliflower, which is doing pretty good, and I threw away these two cauliflower transplants because they were looked so small, but then I didn't realize that they just needed to, that the problem is that garden soil, the tops would be small, but the roots, they were rooting in there. And fortunately, I had the good sense to save one of them, and it's actually growing quite well. Then there's another cauliflower back there. It's probably the biggest one. Cabbage, cauliflower. Here's more of those starts I told you about, or those, yeah, transplants I told you about that I can't tell if they're stunted. I think one or two of them might grow, but I think mostly they're stunted. Like that cauliflower looks like it's toast. All right. This cauliflower is just in a bad spot. It's right next to the path. There's not enough. The soil isn't deep enough there. It's not gonna grow. This is celery from last year. I've been eating that all spring. The leaves and the stalk. It's not like a thick stalk. Although the seed stalks are really good eating, actually. Here's this huge collard plant that it's shaded out all these things I've stubbornly tried to plant under it, but there's no way I'm chopping it down. I mean, all those seeds are gonna keep the kale churning. And we've got more stuff over here. This is my old cold frame. Here's the basil, you can see where the slugs totally chewed up these guys. We'll see if anything's left tomorrow night after tonight. There's some charred. These I left in the cold frame under the tinted windows and during the gray spell, and they got like totally etiolated and screwed, and I was freaking out and thinking, oh, when they get the direct sun they'll die, but of course all I really had to do was pull off the windows and they adapted to it. I was setting up these like temporary shade things and it wasn't working, and I was just like, fuck this, they're gonna die or they're gonna live on their own, and by God, looks like they're living. I don't think the kohlrabi is gonna turn out as kohlrabi though, because of the etiolation period. I think I kind of fucked that up. We'll see if it ever becomes kohlrabi or if it just becomes like a leafy kale type thing. Now this was going to be my root bed. It was potatoes last year. The problem is it's really rocky because it's really wet, which is why I wanted it to be the root bed, and lots of compost because I used to have a compost pile here. But I chopped down the potato leaves because they're just grocery store potatoes that aren't really good to eat anyway. I just planted them last year because what the hell, I'm cheap and I didn't want to spend money on potato seed. But it's just so rocky here that I don't really think I can grow good roots here, so I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. Here's this golden raspberry someone gave me, which is just enormous. He gave me a bunch of other plants too, but again, the rocky soil, I planted them at a bad time, and the rocks, and a lot of them I moved them out of here. They weren't doing great. Some of them died. This is where I had my first compost pile, so it's just incredibly rich soil, but it gets no sun. So it's a really interesting area that I haven't figured out what to do with. I actually grew potatoes in here, and because the soil's so rich, even though there was no sun, I mean, they grew. It was crazy. I mean, they had some sun. They could kind of reach out into the sun because the soil's so good. But the soil here, because of the compost pile and because I put a bunch of wood chips over it on top of the potatoes last year, I don't know if you can see it, but this soil, I mean, it's like black, right? Like, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's like basically growing in straight compost. I mean, look at that. Like, so you can see, like, look, that's a mint plant. I mean, there's just everything's oversized back here because it's in the shade, so the leaves get bigger. And then it's also just the soil's ridiculous, so it can do whatever, they can grow whatever they want, basically. And this is catnip, which I already cut back to use the leaves as mulch because I don't know what else to do with it. I don't think you can eat it. And it's already growing back after, maybe 2 weeks. And here's a bunch of onions that I transplanted out of a spot that... So I'm trying to grow squash here, too. See that? Pumpkin start from the... It's really small. It looks bigger in that picture than it really is. I mean, let's see that. It's really not that big. You probably can't see, but these stupid broccoli plants went to seed in their pots, which I think that was a problem with the potting soil. didn't mix it all in this huge plastic tub. And this huge plastic tub here, that's where I dug up all this garden soil and made potting soil by adding compost to it. But I didn't really mix it. I don't want to. I don't want to talk. Oh. That's mint right there, actually. And this is an idea that seems like it's failing, but I planted these potatoes here, grocery store potatoes that my roommates were gonna throw away. They don't seem to be sprouting great because it doesn't get full sun here. I think they'll probably come along though in the next month. So unfortunately, I was showing some cuttings earlier, like the vine maple cuttings. I'm trying to keep those alive because those are cool. This is like this shitty, I think this is another, I don't know why I took a cutting of this shitty plant. It's like this shitty tree that grows around here, and of course the cutting is growing good, but I'm like, the fuck did I take a cutting of this shitty plant? So, anyway, there it is, growing good. I do have, maybe that's willow. I hope that's willow. No, I don't think it is, though. We'll see, because I did take a bunch of willow cuttings, and I'm surprised I haven't seen them around. Because I just took all these cuttings last fall thinking, oh, I want to grow some trees in my yard. Permaculture, trees, whatever. But this willow cutting, it's like growing like a motherfucker. Look at this thing. Stuck this behind the old tree that died. That was part of, I wanted to replace this guy. It's an old cedar that was never that healthy. It hung over the fence here. But look at that motherfucker. It's like, when I saw it, I was like, did that sprout? Was that a seed? And I was like, no, I think that's one of the willow cuttings. I mean, that thing's like, it's really growing. So I'm stoked about that. That's really cool. And there were some other cuttings. I just showed you the vine maple and another, I don't know if it's alder or what it is, but this is just like the weedy area by the fence. I just showed you the shady area. I didn't want to talk because my roommate's back there on the deck, and I don't want to be talking at my video. I mean, I don't really need to narrate this anyway, right? I can just tell you, but whatever. Oh, there's an artichoke. I put it way back here in the weed area, just because of the cedar. That there's like actually like the soil here is pretty good, I think, in some spots, like because of the needles decaying over years, you know. And the artichoke's finally putting out some of its big guy leaves, so we'll see what those do. Probably pretty late, but I guess they last for a few years, so I was thinking, well, if I can get it established this year, maybe next year. And I spread the sunchokes all over. This is where I had them drop wood chips last year, but my wood chip luck seemed to have run out, so... Oh, I think I do see another willow. Let's take a look at that in a second. Oh, here's some of that oregano. This is like a big chunk of the oregano that I dug up and planted here. See, the idea is why I've been spreading this mint and oregano around. I showed you some of the mint that I spread around. There's the morning glory. I want to spread these kind of like more tenacious perennial edibles so that at least instead of morning glory choking everything, I'll have something I like, you know, like mint or oregano, choking everything. So, and the plane, of course, you probably can't hear me, but I think these sunchokes are going to grow good, although I don't think I really built this bed deep enough, but whatever. The sunchokes are just crazy motherfuckers. They could just grow around here. So, dang it. There was a, it looks like the rose died. I had a rose cutting that, oh, my roommate probably knocked it over with his weed eater. Yeah, it looks like he did. That's too bad. Although I think I still see some life to it, so it might survive. Is this the rose? Oh, this isn't willow. This is the rose, I think. Yeah. Oh, it's just the rose. So he didn't kill the rose. The rose is fine. Cool. Well, that'll probably be a nice rose bush someday. We'll see if it makes it. Well, that was too much fun. I don't want to stop. Here's those golden raspberries I told you about. It's easy to just get lost out here. All who wander, as you said, huh? So I've got more oregano I put down here. This is just a little sort of oasis behind the cherry tree, which so it doesn't get a lot of sun, but it makes it easier to transplant stuff. I knew the golden raspberries wouldn't grow anything. I just put them here because I didn't have anywhere I wanted to put them in I wanted to grow my annuals this year. I don't know, I was just feeling down on the raspberries, like they take up space. And I was like, fuck them. I'm going to put them out in the front. I think eventually my goal here is to, like, in the fall, I have a lot of things I'm like, oh, in the fall I'll transplant that, you know, the perennials and stuff. And so this is like a wild carrot. Look at that. This thing's huge. It's like probably 2 feet tall. You can see the seed head going up. It just grew there. Isn't that cool? So these golden raspberries are like kind of barely surviving, just like they did last year. They might be just permanently fucked at this point. I don't think so though, because they had these huge roots. When I dug them up from this guy's yard, he said they were like 7-year-old plants. Although honestly, those canes just look like crap, and they were getting sun before this thing leafed out. So I don't know, man. But I might move them. We'll see. Just kill them. I had the one golden raspberry that I showed you before that's really healthy, had all this new growth coming up from like these adventitious roots that were going pretty high, I think, underground back there because of that rocky soil. I think the root was just going along looking for new, like, decent spots and sending up all these new, I don't know what you call them, like secondary plants or whatever the hell. I dug them up and gave them away, though, in pots at, like, different community farm events, so I don't know, I was just like, fuck it, I don't want golden raspberry, fuck that. See, I don't like the berries because I'm like, what, I'm going to have this huge plant sitting in my yard all year to, like, give me berries for, like, you know, a little bit or whatever? I don't know. Maybe that's self-defeating, but I want greens and veggies. And here's a cherry that started on its own. Hey, my roommate left that when he weed-eated it. That was smart. Here's a fennel plant that fucking, I don't know why it sucks. I don't know why I can't grow fennel. It's like a weed here, and it always dies, and anyway, it's stupid. So, this is just from the store. It's just cheap start from the store, so. And, I planted some more of those crappy squash seeds over here. They don't look like they're gonna make it, though. They're not getting enough light, I don't think, and, shitty, so, whatever. Anyway, I've got a bunch of alliums. Oh, I didn't even show you the alliums in the back. There's actually a shit ton of them back under the deck. I was just worried about my roommate. Didn't want to disturb him, so. But up here, the soil's not deep enough to really grow stuff, but anyway, that's enough.